Olympic City and the home of Pikes Peak. This is the Automotive ADHD Show with Matt West.
And here we are, rocking it on the Automotive ADHD Show. Matt West hanging out with you, talking cars for the weekend. Got a loaded show for you today. A special guest joining me in the third and fourth halves of the show. His name is Jim Miller. He's just a guy, and you'll figure out what that means soon. And he's a diehard JDM fan, and he's also known on the radio here in Southern Colorado for his daily drive time rants. So he's going to be really fun to talk to, and quite frankly, I don't know what to expect. I told him, hey, we're just going to talk cars. What about cars? Let's figure it out, and that's going to be fun, especially if you listen on the radio here in Colorado and you know Jim for his other work. You know why this is going to be so much fun. So I'm looking forward to that. Before we talk about that, I'm also going to talk about chrome and why it's going away on cars. And it's not what you think. It's not because it's out of style. In fact, that's what they want you to think. Yeah, I'll tell you about this. This is going to be fun. I'm also going to talk about how your insurance company is tracking you, even if you didn't opt into one of those, OBD2 tracker systems for your insurance company. They're tracking you still, and they're raising your rates for it. So we're going to get to all of that and more. Now, the Pikes Peak Hill Climb is coming up here. And it's coming up here in about a week, and I have been busy. I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and it's been very busy preparing for it. Because if you're new to this show, I do tons of stuff around the hill climb. Go out to the Fan Fest and broadcast the show from there. Been doing that for a couple years in a row, and it just gets bigger every single time. So it's really exciting. Also going to be on the mountain during the practice days, talking to drivers. Specifically, going to be following along with Jimmy Ford, and I think we'll also hear from a exciting new entry, an exciting new person who is on the hill climb, who's racing, who you have already heard on this show. And we'll get into all of that and more. But I am excited to say that for the Pikes Peak Hill Climb Fan Fest, this is the big festival that happens downtown here in Colorado Springs, and it takes over like the entire city. And I mean, it's not a small festival. This is probably the biggest street festival that happens here. We have other street festivals for other things over the course of the year. They are nothing in size and scale and excitement compared to the Hill Climb Fan Fest. So, and I'm going to be there broadcasting from the Hemmings.com footprint tent. We're going to be hanging out there. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm happy to partner up with Hemmings, by the way. Very proud to partner up with them for the Hill Climb Fan Fest this year. So that not only means that I'll be at the Hemmings tent, they're bringing out a really cool and special car, but that also means you're going to have a chance to win some cool stuff that they are giving away. They've got some Hemmings prize packs, some goodies, and more. And of course, I've got the Automotive ADHD keychains and stickers, which I will be handing out for free. If you want one, and I have them left, if I haven't given them all away by the time you get there, there's one with your name on it. Whatever your name is, there's one with your name on it. So anyway, that's going to be really cool. And again, that's going on Friday. That Friday, by the way, is the 21st of June here. And the Fan Fest festivities usually get underway kind of mid to late afternoon, and then they go until dark and even after dark a little bit. So if you're maybe flying out to Colorado to spectate and be a part of the race, you should join me there at the booth. Or, hey, if you listen here in Colorado, of course, my radio listeners here on the show are right here in this state. I encourage you to come out to the Fan Fest. It's going to be really cool. Going to have some great guests on the show while we're there, and it's going to be a live show with a live audience. So I can't wait. It's going to be really fun. Now, that being said, this radio show happens on the weekend, and obviously Fan Fest is on Friday. It's not during my airtime on the weekend. So we are going to be live streaming the show on the show's social media, the Facebook page, and on YouTube. So if you want to be a part of the live show, but you're not here in Colorado or you can't attend, you can join the show on the live stream. Well, depending on the signal. I will say cell signal down there and internet connection down there can get really spotty during an event when there's 300,000 people walking all along on the street, all with their phones. But we're going to do our best. So that's how you can tune into the show next week. And then we will air some highlights from the FanFest live stream that Saturday afterwards. And so all around, really fun stuff. You are getting a ton of exciting content here on the Automotive ADHD show. Probably more of it than you asked for this week. I'll also be talking with Jimmy Ford as a podcast exclusive later here after the radio show. I'm going to go to his shop and we're going to do an interview there. So, I mean, this week, that's why I'm so busy. You're getting way more Automotive ADHD than you asked for. Perhaps that's a good thing. I hope that's a good thing. So anyway, follow along. Be sure that you don't miss a minute of this show. You can tell I'm excited, right? I'm really excited. So now I could talk about hill climb stuff for the entire duration of this show. I've got a whole week to talk about that. So I want to get to some other things here. Firstly, Chrome. Chrome, have you noticed how in the past decade, 2 decades, of cars, maybe if not even, maybe a little more than that, Chrome has gone away as a stylistic choice. And it's going away even more so now on new cars. Have you noticed that? New cars tend to have blacked out trim. They tend to not have much chrome. Maybe they got matte black finishes on there or the piano black stuff, which that glossy black plastic is... It's no good in my opinion. It's always going to scratch. It's never going to look good. It'll look good for like 5 minutes when the car's new, but that's about it. But moral of the story, chrome is going away. And I mean, now true metal that is plated in chrome has kind of been gone in cars for a long time. I mean, you know, actual physical metal, all of the chrome on cars these days is plastic, but it's chrome-plated plastic. But even that is going away. And this comes by way of The Drive. Nico DiMattia from The Drive reports that, quote, Stellantis is plotting the death of chrome because it causes cancer. That's what they're saying. That's the reason they're citing for it. And Stellantis is moving away from chrome as a design element altogether. Now, why does it cause cancer? What part of this, you know, is the reason for that? And it's the type of chromium that is used in automobile trim, and it is called hexavalent chromium or chromium 6. Hexavalent chromium 6. Something like that. I'm butchering it a little bit. It's a big word. Big words are scary. I'm just saying. But anyway, they say the actual material that's used to do this plating is aggressive. It is a very aggressive carcinogen. It causes cancer. Of course, if you're in the state of California, it causes cancer. And by the way, this does come by way of the California Air Resource Board, CARB, everyone's favorite organization, by the way. Sarcasm, if you couldn't tell. But anyway, they say it's 500 times more toxic than diesel exhaust and has no known safe level of exposure. Firstly, are you telling me diesel exhaust is toxic at all? What have I been breathing this whole time? Yikes. Anyway, but anyway, so they say the thing is that the chrome on your car itself is not actually going to make you sick. That's not going to make you sick. It's only dangerous in the electroplating process. So it's dangerous to the workers and the people who are around it. And it doesn't make its way into the air either, they say. But here's what's interesting. And the head of Stellantis basically said the problem isn't, it's not, they're basically saying that chrome is going out of style and they want you to think it's going out of style because they don't want to keep using it because it's carcinogenic. Now, are there other alternatives to chrome? There are. They say that the problem with them is that they're not as good. They're not as good in terms of the shine and the appearance that people have grown to love. So anyway, hey, we'll touch a little bit more on this in the next segment. And we're going to hear from Jim Miller, just a guy. He ran for mayor, by the way, but he's going to be here to talk about cars. I think you're really going to enjoy this. Going to be fun here on the Automotive ADHD show. Don't go anywhere.
And now for how things work with an engineer.
transmissions. Shift.
And that was How Things Work with an Engineer. More of How Things Work can be found at facebook.com/automotive ADHD.
Car sounds, courtesy of Jack Morrow. I'm running those again. Those are great car sounds. His 1954 Buick Special swapped onto a shortened 1986 C10 frame with a 454. We're talking big block. Really cool stuff there. Thanks again, Jack, for sending those car sounds in. Your package with the keychain and the Automotive ADHD sticker is on the way as we speak. It is somewhere in the snail mail system, and it will arrive hopefully, and it will, I say hopefully, it will arrive, and I think it'll be really cool. Look forward to seeing whatever you do with that. So, by the way, you can send those car sounds into my show. I play them here on the radio. Facebook.com/automotive ADHD is the place to do it, and because this is Hill Climb Month, I've got some special extras for people who send car sounds in. So you might see on the video that I'm wearing this nice Hill Climb hat. And if you send car sounds in the month of June here, I will pick one winner at random to not only get the Automotive ADHD keychain, the Automotive ADHD sticker, but also a Pikes Peak Hill Climb snapback hat. Now, this is not the one I'm wearing. This one is unworn. It is free from greasy fingerprints, at least until you put them there. And it's a nice snapback, good looking. It's got the logo on it here. This is from last year's running of the Hill Climb, and I bought this with my own money. You'll also get a sticker here for the Hill Climb as well. But I bought this with my own money and let it sit in my closet for the better part of a year, and I think it would be better in your hands, on your head. So why don't you send those car sounds in? Again, I'll pick at random from entries this month. So facebook.com/automotive ADHD. Now, I want to wrap up a little bit on my thoughts on the Chrome story I was talking about before the break. And this is, and we won't go too much further with this, but Ralph Giles, head of design at Stellantis, so that's Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, who says he is ushering in the death of Chrome because apparently it's carcinogenic. It gives you cancer, which I'm told is not good for you. And it does that, but only if you're in California, obviously, probably. But it makes you wonder, what are we going to do instead of Chrome? Because blacked out trim doesn't work on everything. Chrome has a purpose in automotive design. It does. And he says sometimes you don't want a black and white contrast. Sometimes tonal contrast is more attractive. He also says, so quote, so we're using bronzes and silvers and graphites where chrome used to be to create that offset. I guess fine, I'll put up with that. If it doesn't give you cancer, that's fine, I guess. Again, clarifying, it doesn't give you cancer, but it is carcinogenic during the manufacturing process. It's fine after the fact if you touch your chrome grille on your car. It's not gonna hurt you, unless it's a Cybertruck or something, which is stainless, and I guess people are getting cut on those now because they're sharp stainless steel. Anyway, but it makes me kind of think, though, that, you know, they say they've kind of planned this phase out of chrome, almost like they've orchestrated this design trend away from chrome to make us think that it looks dated and that it looks, you know, old and uncool. And in some ways, I think they have. Though I will say, for me, my generation growing up with all the fake plastic chrome, that's how it is. And even the generation before me, fake plastic chrome. You know, I think we get this sense of chrome being cheap and being uncool from that, because, okay, chrome in the 1950s and the 1960s, look at cars with chrome from those eras. Oh my gosh, that is good chrome. That is the way chrome is meant to be. And you even go to junkyards, if you find a old classic wrecking yard or something like that, you know, not that there's a ton of those around, but if you find these old classics rotting away into the ground, right? They're rusty, they're patinaed. What looks great on them still? The chrome strips, the trim, all of that's popping. It looks as good as day one. And that's proper chrome. And I think it looks really good. Now, the 70s and the 80s led to the plastic, the chrome-plated plastic. It got cheaper. It felt cheap. It looked cheap. It didn't look as good. And I think that's led to this impression that we have with chrome. And, having it go, I mean, chrome on cars, it hasn't been metal since the 60s, since the late 60s. It hasn't been metal. It just hasn't. Even on our modern cars where chrome is still used. And I think, if anything, we might see this weird paradigm shift with car design. Obviously, we're going to see them moving away from chrome and to these other materials. But if we have a long enough departure from chrome, will that mean it becomes cool again? And it becomes the new counterculture thing? Will kids in 2045 and 2050 be putting gigantic chrome wheels on their cars again because it's cool? Or having chrome plated grills? Will they be doing that? Who knows? Maybe they'll be putting that on whatever EV spaceship things that we're driving around in 2050, whatever that is. Hopefully it's not a Tesla, but so there you go. Now, I got to get to a much more important story than chrome. If anything, I should probably be talking about this rather than chrome for an entire segment and a half. But this comes by way of the New York Times. Your insurance company, your car insurance company, is tracking you. And they're doing it even if you're not opted into one of those programs. We've seen these advertised. Oh, plug our OBD2 dongle thing into your car, and we'll track you. And if you're a good driver, we'll give you a better rate. If you're a bad driver, we'll give you a more expensive rate. They don't tell you that part. It's implied, but they don't say it that way. But that's what happens. Well, it turns out insurance companies are tracking you anyway through your cell phone, even if you don't have your insurance company's app on your phone. They're calling this driving scores, by the way. And how are they tracking these driving scores? Different apps on your phone, ones that you maybe don't expect, collect your location data. That data is sold to brokers, who then sell that data to auto insurance companies. One example of this that they cite, by the way, is Life 360, which is a popular app with parents who want to keep track of their families, shows where your family is on a map. That doesn't just show where your family is and where your kids are driving and when they're driving. They're selling that data that they collected to the insurance companies. Same thing with My Radar, which offers weather forecasts, which, by the way, I didn't even realize this. I have this here on my phone. I have, right there, My Radar. I like it because it lets me obviously see, especially hail. I mostly have it because we get a lot of hail here in Colorado. And I will keep an eye in thunderstorms on where the really intense part is and try to make sure I keep my cars out of the hail. So I even have that. And it's selling my data to the insurance company. Another one is Gas Buddy, which helps you find cheap fuel when you're on road trips or driving around town. They sell your location data to insurance companies. And here's the thing. I think there's a reason that they're not telling you up front that they're doing this. Because obviously, if you put in one of the opt-in type of insurance things, I've seen Progressive advertising these. I've seen them on different companies, and you put the thing in your car and it tracks you. You know you're being tracked. You're signing up for that with the intention of getting a discount because you are being tracked and they know you're driving. And they're looking at things like, how often are you exceeding the speed limit? How many G-forces are you pulling in corners? How hard are you braking? How often are you braking hard? They look at those factors to determine your quote-unquote driving score. Do we get to see this driving score? You can go and check your credit score, but you can't check your driving score. That's a little weird to me. But with those programs that it's tracking you, so I'm being monitored all the time. I'm going to be a good driver. I'm going to, not accelerate hard or do any of this stuff. And that. So obviously you're going to drive better. But in this case, you don't know that. You don't know. Maybe you do now because you're listening to the show, but you don't know that you're being tracked. So you're going to keep driving however it is. And maybe you got a late braking habit or whatever it is you're doing. Granted, we all think we're pretty good drivers, but I think they don't really want you to know that because then they would, they're going to drive really good so we don't have to charge them as much money. No, let them keep driving the way they're driving so we can keep charging them more money on top of that. That's at least a theory of mine. Now, granted, the more claims an insurance company pays out, inverse to the actual income they're getting. I mean, yeah, they'll lose money, but I think they're towing that balance is what they're doing. But this raises a number of questions, which is, how does the phone know that I'm driving or you're driving? What if I'm in the passenger seat? What if I'm in the passenger seat with a friend who's a terrible driver? Is that going against my driving score? I don't know, because I can't see my driving score. Firstly, I'd like to see that. Secondly, I'd like them to stop doing it altogether. And even though I like this My Weather Radar app on here, helps me track the hailstorms, I'm deleting it right here after the show. It's gone. I'm not a fan of this because it's not disclosed. And if it was disclosed, I would say, I don't really like that. Sorry, I'm not going to do your app or your thing. Now, you say, I say it's not disclosed. Yeah, it's disclosed in the gigantic wall of text that would take you about 300 years to read. It's in that. Yeah, I know. Okay, I didn't read that. Well, I'm opting out of it now, and that's how I'm doing it. But the other thing is, if you've got a newer car, you probably can't opt out of it. You might say, I'm so opposed to this. I don't like the idea of it. I'm going to leave my phone at home. Your car's still tracking you. If your car has any sort of connected system on it, if it has onboard Wi-Fi, if it's got OnStar, if it's got any of these systems, it already communicates with the manufacturer. And the manufacturers sell this data. GM got busted selling this data a while back, and they were doing it. I mean, outright. It's not a conspiracy theory at all. They were doing it. So, if your car gets any sort of over-the-air update for your infotainment system or any of that, it can do this, and it likely is. Even Toyota got into some hot water, you could say, doing this. And as you know, they can do no wrong. So this must have been an imposter company and wasn't actually Toyota. They just looked like Toyota. But still, this is one of those things that, can we do anything about it? Yeah, you can be vocal about it. You can not download these apps. Again, I just named a few that New York Times found that do this. They browse through all of their agreements on here and looked at the companies they do business with. Again, that's Life 360, My Radar, Gas Buddy. Those are three right there. You might have them on your phone anyway. We all want to be better drivers. Obviously, we don't want insurance claims. That's not good. That drives up the cost of the insurance. People who are for this, though, say it's still a better method than tracking your insurance and determining your risk factor to the insurance company via, things like your actual credit score. They'll do that. It's like, what does my credit score have to do with my ability as a driver? Have you seen how many people can afford really nice cars, supercars, and can't drive? I'm just saying. But I still disagree with it. And if anything, I want to be able to opt into it with an insurance company. So, hey, now you know what to do. If you like it, cool, keep it on your phone. If you're like me and you say, I'm not a fan of it, ditch it. So anyway, hey, coming up, Jim Miller, Just a Guy, here on the show after the break.
Colorado Springs' #1 car show by default. This is Automotive ADHD.
And you are listening to the Automotive ADHD show. Matt West here, hanging out with you, talking cars on the weekend. Special guest joining me across from the toolbox here in the garage, the studio, whichever you'd like to call it. Now, you might recognize him from his rants, or maybe because he ran for mayor here in Colorado Springs, and he works on a drive time news talk show that airs on AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer. You can hear him every single, I'll say Monday through Thursday. It's 4 days a week, but you can hear him 4 days a week in the afternoons on The Answer. And my guest is Jim Miller, Just a Guy. Jim, welcome to Automotive ADHD.
I feel very welcome. It was like walking into a Lowe's when I got here. Very welcome.
All the stuff around here, all the junk in the garage.
Looks like a Lowe's and an AutoZone had a baby in here. It's nice. This is so much more organized than I am.
I would live in an AutoZone, for the record. But anyway.
I'd probably pick an O'Reilly's. Maybe an advanced, older advanced, new advances.
Hear me out. Napa.
Okay. Yeah, Napa, you're talking with a napper.
Yeah, Napa stuff there. So anyway, we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. Now, if you are new to The Answer, or if you listen to AM 1460, The Answer often, you're familiar with Jim, but you might not know Jim is a big car guy. I think you've described yourself before as a car hermit. once or twice before.
Yeah, I'm in the closet for Pride Month. I'm thinking about coming out. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I'm kind of out of the main scene anyways, just because it's changed a lot over the years. So it's not quite my shot of whiskey anymore, if you will.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what I want to talk a little bit about the scene, because you've been doing a lot of car stuff. You saw the early side of like the tuning culture, right? So I want to before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about your background though, especially as a car guy. Where are you coming from with cars? What kind of cars are you into? Tell me about that.
Probably like the most of us. We all had a weird phase with our Hondas.
Mm-hmm. I'm still in that phase.
That's fine. Everybody has it. I like the Preludes more and some of the old like little hatchback Civics and stuff, but we all had our Honda phase one way or another. Some of us just didn't get out of it, and it's fine. Do your thing. And then and like everybody else too, I had my all-wheel drive. We have a Subaru or a Evo phase, and you're like, I had Subarus, a lot of WRXs and stuff. But personally, I do like the old 2.0, the 2.0, the old bug-eye WRXs. I still like them. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They're fine as long as you maintain them, warm them up, idle them down, cool them off, don't put them away hot. And you can't be slamming into it while it's all cold. You're not going to last.
Yeah. Well, head gaskets. And I mean, I have, you might have seen it once. I drove it to the radio station, the Hawkeye Subaru.
Oh, yeah.
That I bought for really cheap on Facebook Marketplace because a friend of the show, OBD1 Kenobi, Brian, he encouraged me to do so, and I blew up the head gasket like 3 days later.
It's the rusty one, right? The rusty one you showed me?
They're all rusty.
Yeah, the Subaru Rustaroo. I saw it.
Yep. And so, yeah, I know what you mean with the Subarus there, and I think they are really fun cars. Now, you've also got some interesting JDM cars. You've really kind of gotten into that. You've got K-Trucks, you've got crusty Corollas just like mine.
I have too many A86s. Yeah, you're right. There's no way around it. It is what it is. Like, what do you... Oh, is that a Toyota? Hey, is that Japanese rust? Let me get some of that. Be like a freaking Ferrari or something over there. I'm like, wow, that's not Japanese rust. I don't want none of that. Where's the Japanese rust at? There it is. Look at that rust from Japan. Somebody put that in a jar and sell it, right?
Yeah, well, and that's one thing I think people don't understand about... you got the modern scene now. We're going to talk about this, but with JDM cars, JDM stands for Japanese domestic market. People are like, some of the older guys on this show, especially on the radio, are like, what the heck is a JDM?
Yeah, right.
But that being said, people, especially the social media crowd, the kids these days have this huge hype around the JDM stuff. And we're talking your, Mark IV Supras, your Paul Walker Supras, your R34 GTRs, the Skylines, FDRX7s. I actually kind of like the FDRX7. I like the FDRX7 quite a bit, actually. But you've got all of this. And I think people miss the point that these cars are also old cars in Japan too, right? Just because it's there doesn't mean it doesn't rust. And even here in Colorado, I've seen plenty more rust on JDM cars than original Colorado cars, for example, because we have a fairly dry climate. We don't really get rust. They don't really salt the roads out here. And you bring in these JDM cars, they're almost rustier than our old cars.
Oh,
here.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Japan's an island. There's a lot of ocean around there. Salt water's not your friend with metal. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. And now, have you imported some of the cars yourself, or have you bought them here stateside?
I bought a lot from people that already imported stuff or something I wanted, and they imported it for me or whatever. Went through them. It's fine. Just stuff like that. But I have a lot of stuff like that. It's just cars. They're just cars. Right-hand drive, left-hand drive. Let's be honest. It's just cars.
Yeah.
It really is. Don't envy no other man's pile of metal. Mm-hmm. Or if it's a Toyota from Japan, rust. Don't envy no other man's pile of rust. Is that your pile? I really want your pile of rust. And these kids nowadays, though, they don't remember when we were just... The reason we got into this stuff, it was cheap.
Yeah.
They were all nickel cars. I mean, really, for $500, $1,500, you were getting something nice for $1,500 back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Now, and even $500. Used to buy all these A86s. Oh, it's sitting there. I'm an old guy. Well, I don't want it. I'm going to go get, blah, 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 some kind of Echo car. Do you want to buy it? And you're like, I got $600. Oh, you can have it. You're like, nice. Datsun 510s, all that stuff. It used to be cheap. We used to run around and buy them because they were cheap.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because it was like, oh, we hate them. It was because we enjoyed them, wanted to drive them. And it was affordable. It was affordable to be in it. The 240s, all that stuff it was all cheap. It was cheap old Echo cars that you just had fun with. Well, now it's more of a trend.
Well, and the 240 scene as a whole is basically dead. I mean, the S chassis, I was getting into cars as S chassis were just starting to get a little pricey, but you could still get a beaten up, crusty S chassis, a 240SX, right? And go drift it and have fun with it. And now you look on Facebook Marketplace and you look for an S chassis that, runs and drives and is decent, and maybe doesn't even, have the engine you want, but it runs and drives, and people are like, 14 grand, no low ballers.
Well, part of that's inflation too. You got to remember it's 2024, $1,000 in 2024 is $100 from the 80s. So
yep,
that's part of it. The dollar just doesn't go very far. A dollar's just not much of anything. Plus the trend and then the new interweb stuff. Look, I'm older than the Mario Brothers, all right? I'm from a whole different world. I'm from a fist fight and a beer world, and that's your friend, and you're like, oh, you want to race about it? Did you build a better pile of rust than I did? Let's go race about it, And then you're like, oh, all right, my rust didn't go as fast. I obviously haven't weight dropped enough with all the rust falling off my car.
Not enough rust fell off the car. Right.
Active weight reduction. Oh, what's that? It's not rust, sir. That's active weight reduction or patina, if we want to be classy about it. But you got to say it with your pinky out, or else you're just not being classy with the patina.
Right. Yeah. And so that's one of the things I think. So that's interesting. That's kind of like, why I appreciate some of your perspective on it, because you've been into cars even longer than I've been doing any of this stuff. I'm not old at all. So, I'm calling you old, by the way. I'm beating around the bush and calling you old on the radio. But no, that's the thing. We've got, nowadays cars, we've got the JDM scene. It's all social media. It's all, I think, people trying to flex, as the kids say, oh, we're going to flex on each other. Right. And the thing is, like, half of them don't even really drive the cars.
Yeah, they all want to be the Rizzler with the cool car or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's.
Have you figured out what the Rizzler is yet? I'm still working on it.
I think it's a Batman villain or something, what the kids are saying. They all look like a bunch of alpacas with their haircuts walking around. If they were spit and you think they escaped from the petting zoo or something. It's all trendy stuff now. And I'm glad that the car scene's on the forefront. There's a flip into it too. It's not all bad.
Right.
It's good that it's at the forefront. Hey, cars aren't bad. You're like, oh, good. Cars ain't bad. You're right. Cars are not bad, even though a lot of this stuff tries to turn you into a criminal for being into them.
Yeah.
But that is a flip into it, but it's turned into a lot of trends. You're right.
Well, and we're going to talk a little bit about those trends, and we're also going to maybe talk about the scene as a whole and get more from Jim Miller, just a guy. You're listening to Automotive ADHD. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break. Listening to the Automotive ADHD show. I know I'm being a little pretentious in having my own car sound on the show, but of course if you listen to this show, you can submit your car sounds and I play them here on the radio, and you can do that at facebook.com/automotive ADHD. I was just talking to my guest maybe about having some car sounds on the show as well. Joining me right here is Jim Miller, just a guy. You may recognize that phrase from his segment on The Peak, which is a drive time news talk show on AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer. Jim does a rant series every day on the radio. He's ranting about something, and it might be politics, it might be city stuff, it might be, family stuff in society. But he is here today to talk about cars. He is a car guy, a self-proclaimed, I would say, car hermit, you said, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't go out in the mix that much anymore.
But hey, you're here on this show, here on the radio. And before the break, we were talking a little bit about the car scene itself, how it's changed a little bit over the years, how social media has changed it for the better, for the worse. And as you were saying before we wrapped up, for the better in such a way because it's more people, it's more accessible to more people.
Oh, yeah.
People can be around it more. It normalizes some of it more. What are your thoughts on that?
No, that's good. It's good. Nothing wrong with being a car guy. Sometimes, we get treated like the new skateboarders, cleaning the cars is a crime or something. And you're like, what? No, I'm just hanging out with the kids and showing them how to break stuff probably more than anything half the time. It's like, hey, I broke that. Don't worry about that. You're going to have to go back and order another part. You're fine. Or sometimes, the modern parts just ain't quite as good as the older parts were either. I don't know what's up with that. There's no QC on a lot of them parts now, but yeah, it's not too bad. It's good that it's forefront. It's just, I hate how it's kind of a trend. I really do. I'm not a trendy person. I go by my own beat, my own drum, my own thing. And I'm into cars because I like the cars. I appreciate all the art of the design and the build and mating certain engines and drivetrains with certain I like that. It was an art. There used to be more of an art to it. Now it's more, oh, I have a really cool car, blah, blah, blah. This is the downside of it. I have a cool car. I'm cool. And it's like, no, you're still not a very good person. And I'm good. You don't have to like everybody, but it's just some people that's their whole thing. I have a cool car, so I'm cool. You better like me. And you're like, nah, just be a decent person, man. It's cool. And, the older car guys, we're a little bit meaner, okay? Look, we'll be making fun of everybody's stuff, It'll be like, hey, it's a Chevy, rusty garbage.
Right. Ford found on road dead.
All this stuff. We just make fun of each other for doing the thing. And it's not bad. We're not mean. It's man therapy. We're like, it's been a long week. I'm married too. I got kids too. I'm overworked and overtaxed. What are you doing? Hanging out with my friends. We're making fun of each other's cars. And we just broke stuff while we thought we were fixing stuff, and it all went wrong. And those are the wrong parts. Waited 9 months for the wrong parts. We just a different group. And when we started off being kids doing it, most of these kids his age now, and we were hacking and cutting stuff more than anything. We're like, air conditioning? Don't need that. What are you doing now? Weight reduction. Why? Because there wasn't a bunch of aftermarket stuff for everything.
Right. That's one thing that's changed a lot lately is the aftermarket. Even in the past 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Even in the past decade, the aftermarket has blown up even more. And it was crazy even then. But I mean, nowadays there's an aftermarket part, especially for a car that's in demand, from like 10 different manufacturers on 15 different websites. And that's not even including eBay on there. But you also got to be careful with aftermarket parts. I've talked with mechanic OBD1 Kenobi on this show before about being careful with aftermarket parts, especially if you're buying an aftermarket clutch kit. One of my good friends has an EG Civic, got an aftermarket clutch kit in it, and just because he was wanting to be kind of cheap, kind of thrifty.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Just a dog trying to save a bone. I got you.
Drives it around for 2 or 3 days, and that aftermarket clutch kit, the throwout bearing in it, grenaded itself. And guess what? Whole thing's got to come back out again. You got to do it all over again because you wanted to cheap out on a few bucks. Yep. So like the aftermarket also though has some really good stuff in it. I mean, especially in the performance realm, there's some quality stuff, but you got to be careful.
I think some of these kids too, though, with some of this stuff, they're like, oh, I saw that on the track. And you're like, they're going back for a rebuild, right?
Oh,
they're done with that.
Oh man.
They think they're just running that all the time. No, they're not. That's rebuilt. They stop. That's being rebuilt and ready for the next event. Not everybody, but a lot of that stuff is. And then be careful. Don't spend the money on the parts. Spend the money. Pull the money out of your pocket and do it. Don't buy garbagey parts because you're going to spend 10 times more buying 10 more garbagey parts than what it would have been for one good one.
That's true. I know a lot of guys who love the eBay turbo life, right? Like, throw an eBay turbo on it. Yeah, I know it's going to blow up, but I'll just put another one on. And I'll just put another one on. And then I just put another one on. And then like the 4th or 5th time it blows up, some bits go inside the engine, some parts blow up and go inside there, and then you've just grenaded your motor. Your motor, you might have just put, $10,000 into building your motor? And because you're cheaping out on a $200 turbo and you don't want to buy a $600 turbo or a $1,000 turbo, you're going to blow up a $10,000 investment? That to me is mind-blowing.
Yeah, the man math doesn't add up right there. Just get the parts, get the good stuff. Don't buy the garbage. You're just going to be buying it too many times. It's a waste. Just buy the good parts. Spend the money the first time. Do it right once. Or break it right once. I don't know. Everybody's doing it. I tend to kind of break stuff sometimes. Like, what'd you do? And you're like, oh, yeah, I forgot. I forgot that this is how you do that. I haven't had to do one for a minute. But I don't know. I like the cars to like the cars. That's what's missing to me in the modern car scene.
Yeah. Well, I think the notion of liking cars because you like it and not because you want other people to like you.
Well,
is that a good way to put
that's
it?
part of the modern era. Everybody wants to be liked by other people, but they don't like themselves. You're like, just you like what you like and do your thing. I don't like your white and Jinko shirt. I actually do, but it looks
cool design on the back.
Yeah, no, but I mean, if you don't, just say you don't like it and move on.
Right.
It does annoy me with some of it because you're just like the stuff you like and move on. Okay, yeah, go with it. But like I said, I do like how it is more forefront. The car stuff's out there. People are like, hey, it's car people. I'm not into the whole the street takeover nonsense and crap. That's
you beat me to a question I was going to ask you, which is
very annoying. And I'm from the era of driving on the street in the middle of nowhere. I'm not gonna admit or deny anything.
What's the statute of limitations?
I don't know nowadays. I have no idea. They've changed the rules so many
longer
times.
than whatever you're talking about.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm older than the Mario Brothers, so we're good. Yeah, everything I've done is way before anything that could be causing me any troubles.
Yeah, well, and that's one thing I think culturally with the street takeovers. Those are problematic. I've talked about them on my show before. I've said they're the stupidest thing you can do. They're incredibly dumb. And even more so, you're being dumb and you're making all of us car guys also look dumb. And in fact, I've ran news stories on this show before how, the news and the media covers these things and they make it seem like a car guy problem. Most of the guys at these takeovers aren't even car guys.
No, they're not. A lot of those vehicles are actually stolen vehicles.
Oh yeah. And they're all like Nissan like 370s and 350s and Infinitis. Those are like really common for that.
Trumpet dying or something. I don't know.
Yeah, VQ
Terrible
series.
sound.
I had to take help a buddy with a VQ40, and I never want to do that again. It was in an Xterra, but it's still a VQ. I don't care. I hate. I'm sure they're great engines. I've had guys comment on the channel here before on the YouTube channel about how the VQ is great. It's more torque actually than what Toyota's got. I'm like, yeah, but it really sucks to work on. But I don't know.
The older I've gotten, the more I like the more comfortable stuff too, honestly. Like the Toyota Centuries and stuff that I have. I like those. It's more just kind of comfy, chill out, relax.
You've got quite a nice Century, by the way.
I have a couple of nice Centuries, a few nice Centuries.
Awesome. Now, hey, let's continue this conversation on the bonus edition of the show. We've been talking cars here with Jim Miller, Just a Guy. If you want to hear more of this show, you need to go over to the podcast or the YouTube or the Facebook page, facebook.com/automotive-ADHD. We're going to do a podcast bonus right here after the break. Don't go anywhere. You've been listening to Automotive ADHD. Catch it on the radio, several great radio stations all across Southern Colorado every single weekend. I'll talk to you next week or in just a minute on the bonus. See you there.